All right, everybody. It's the Always Be Cool podcast, hanging out with Bobby Kerr and Darren Copeland.
What's up, everybody?
At the Summit Lending Studios, hanging out with just an incredible guy, somebody we've known for a long time, Mr. Willie Wilson. Take it away.
Right, here we go. Okay, born July 9th, 1955, from Montgomery, Alabama, moved to Summit, New Jersey when he was 7 years old. Highly regarded athlete in baseball, football, and basketball at Summit High School. He was drafted in the first round by the Kansas City Royals in 1974, played 19 seasons in the majors with the Royals, A's, and Cubs. He was a two-time All-Star in 1982 and 83, World Series champion 1985, Gold Glove in 1980, two-time Silver Slugger Award winner in 1980 and 82, AL batting champion in 1982, and AL stolen base leader in 1979 with 83 there, Bob. Also, Kansas City Royals Hall of Famer. Willie had 668 stolen bases in the major leagues, which is 12th of all time.
Crazy.
What's even better, number 4 all time in the American League alone, just behind Ricky Henderson, Ty Cobb, and Eddie Collins. He is author of the book Inside the Park. Currently lives in Arizona with his better half, Helen. Good friend of ours, Willie Wilson. Welcome to the show, brother. How you doing, man?
You guys told me something I didn't know. I didn't know I was 4th in the American League. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
incredible.
And I believe those 3 others in the Hall of Fame, man. I mean, you're right there. You're kind of a big deal, Willie.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. There's a lot of things I had a chance to do, and it was fun. But, I'm still doing stuff, so it'd be nice to, keep all of that going on a positive note.
Right. Exactly. Well, and Willie, we kind of wanted to start off a little bit chronologically, through your life. So, you were an outstanding, just stud athlete, back in the day in high school, and, you were outstanding in, basketball, baseball, football. Heck, I think you even passed on, if I'm not mistaken, I think you passed on a football scholarship to Maryland. Is that not correct?
That is correct. I was visiting a lot of schools my senior year, and, I got a chance to meet Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, just a bunch of those guys are really great college coaches at the time. But I really fell in love with the University of Maryland, and it was only about 3 or 4 hours away from my home in New Jersey. So that was one of the main reasons I picked Maryland. But the main reason I picked baseball is because I ran into Randy White. I don't know if you guys know Randy White or heard of him. Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, half man, half monster. And the coach, Jerry Clearburn, had invited me down to visit. And I saw Randy White playing defensive end, figure out the play, caught the running back on a screen pass, and I wanted to meet him. Didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out, but he was in the shower. The coach called him out, and coach goes, "Randy, I want you to meet our next running back." And his first words to me were, "I hate running backs." So that kind of made me feel that that a guy that big doesn't like running backs, doesn't want to even say hi, hello. And so I said back to him, I could play deep back. I can be a split end. But if I got to run into you every day, I think I'm going to sign this baseball contract. And that's pretty much how it happened. So Randy White kind of got me to play baseball.
Interesting. That's
right.
Well, obviously you had tremendous talent growing up, natural talent. Just for fun, yesterday we surveyed 25 of our closest friends. This is a true story.
Yep.
25 of our closest friends got a text message saying, "Hey, we're hanging out with Willie tomorrow virtually for the podcast."
Our fantasy camp buddies.
Most of our fantasy camp buddies that like guys like Brad, like obviously you're pretty close with Brad Stalling. So we texted all of them. We said, "Hey, Willie Wilson, what's the first thing that comes to mind?" So I want to read a couple things that all of our buddies said. Okay.
Oh my!
I'll keep it clean. Speed, triples, stolen bases, inside the park home runs, Gold Glove, batting title, most singles in a decade, golf, smile, and number 6. So I mean, a couple of those were obviously doubled and tripled up, but wanted you to know that the first thing that people think of when they think of Willie Wilson are some pretty incredible things that are not only just baseball. And I think that's really cool is that the people that have gotten to know you on a personal level, don't just think baseball. They think this great guy, great smile, great storyteller, and just a hell of a guy. So pretty special. And I hope that resonates really nicely with you.
Yeah.
It does. It does. It's something that, when I played, I was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I really wanted to win bad, and I didn't want to do too much on the field as far as communicating with the fans. And that's just was where I grew up, that New Jersey attitude. We don't take any prisoners and all that stuff. And but as I've gotten older and realized that I wished I would have went back and done things a little bit different, but there's things that you just can't change, but you can make them better. And so for me, I've tried very hard to really enjoy life, really enjoy the people, the surroundings, and really don't take things too serious, just kind of, have a good time and smile, but don't piss people off. So that's pretty much it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But, Stallings gave me a text yesterday, and actually we're going to go to lunch next Thursday. And he told me that you guys had did what you did. So it's really fun. He's really a good guy and really a good neighbor, man.
Right. Well, the thing is, Bobby and I started this podcast, you're talking about don't piss people off, right?
Right.
So, you might see this right here in the background, just the golden rule of ABC, just always be cool. Right.
All right.
So that's what we're trying to instill with everyone in our businesses and friends, right? Man, life's a lot easier when you just don't go around pissing people off.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that does help.
So you mentioned something, Willie. You said that when you were playing, you were kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? So I actually made a note and I put down kind of two faces. So on the field and off the field, there was maybe two different guys that people saw, and kind of easygoing off the field, like you said. But when you got on the field, you kind of took almost that football mentality.
Yes.
And whether or not that was a New Jersey thing. Actually, earlier this week, we spoke with we had Vince Papali on the show. And obviously you're familiar with him and his story, kind of East Coast guy. And he was actually born in New Jersey.
He had the attitude. What is it with this East Coast attitude, man? I
mean, so number one, what is it with the East Coast attitude that kind of instills in people that hard-nosed, blue-collar mentality? And then secondly, maybe take that into your attitude on the field, off the field, and kind of how that transpired and how that continued to grow as you got older.
Well, when I first got to Jersey, I was coming from Alabama, and got in. I think I was there 2 days and got into a scuffle because I talked funny with an accent. It was just always fighting for stuff, always fighting for an inch in New Jersey, and everything was fast. It was moving, and if you wanted to win, if you wanted to succeed, that was the attitude, and that's the kind of way you dealt with stuff back there. I'm just going to go full speed ahead, and back in the East Coast, it's very vocal. They like to yell things at you, and being an East Coaster, I'd yell back stuff at you. You're going to challenge me, I'm going to challenge you. It was crazy when you're young. I realize now I'm 67. That was really crazy, but that's how I survived going through those years. New Jersey was just that kind of way, and so when I got to playing, I first came to the minor leagues. I was number one draft choice for the Royals. When I got to the academy, I walked in there and everybody was kind of staring at me going, why are you number one? And so it was another fight. I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. And I was a catcher in high school, so I didn't really know how to play the outfield. And so I had to learn to do that. So because I think I had that kind of attitude, it really made me like practicing, I love practice. I don't know why people talk about not practice, because if you can do it in practice, you can do it in the game. So I would practice stuff. And, that's where I think it got me to be where I was, because I like practice. But then on the field, I had Amos Otis, John Mayberry, Hal McRae, George Brett, Dennis Leonard, all those guys above me, but those guys had won before I got there. And so I just took my mentality, because I wanted to go a little bit farther. I wanted to win a World Series. So my attitude was, I'm not taking any prisoners on the field or on our team. And so they had to calm me down a little bit my first few years. I can still remember Split looking at me as I'm yelling at a pitcher from the dugout, and he's been there for years, and here's this rookie just yelling at people. So I had to calm down, man, and figure out that the football mentality that I had for about 5 years, man, it was every day. And then after a while, I couldn't really concentrate that hard every day to have that mentality. So I just tried to enjoy the game.
Right. Willie, we always like to talk about in the show, we like to talk about, leaders and mentors that folks have had in their past growing up. And, it sounds like having that East Coast kind of chip on your shoulder, always trying to have to prove yourself. But talk a little bit about, was there one or two people in your life? Because I believe you were really close with your auntie who helped, raise you. Did she instill some of that, toughness inside you that, hey, you need to go out there and prove this, Willie?
Well, my auntie, I had 3 aunties down there, and they disciplined me. My mom, when I went to Jersey, I would go back down south every summer until basically 8th grade, summer 8th, 9th grade. And I would work on the farm, slop pigs. Man, that's a tough job, slopping pigs, man. And what my aunts did was to teach me work ethic, try not to complain, and be thankful for what you got, and just try to make it better. But if I got in trouble with my cousins, I was going to get whooped by my first aunt, my second aunt, my third aunt, and when I got home, I was going to get whooped by my mother. So it was always something to keep me from not getting in trouble. So, they were big influences. But one of the biggest influences on me was my high school coach, Howie Anderson. He was a Rutgers football player, linebacker, big man, but he was tough, but he didn't try to make it tougher on you just because. He wanted you to be the very best that you could be, and he was always doing something positive for us. And there was a couple other people there that Mr. Guida. He was the head of the recreational center there, and he was also a very positive person in my life. And of course, my mom, she was very positive for me, because she was taking care of 2 young boys by herself with my grandmother, and it was a very tough job. So she had to be a mother and a father, but she was always positive, and she did a lot of work for us so that we could survive. So I was very fortunate as a young man to see that, to see what hard work does and see how it pays off. And so it helped me out a great deal. So, those were the people that really kind of influenced me.
Exactly. So you weren't quite an angel, like, of course, Bobby and I, we were angels. We didn't need any help at all, right?
No. I was not an angel, but I wasn't a bad kid, I don't think. I was really easygoing. I had a lot of fun growing up. But then when I started getting better in sports, that's when jealousies start. It's really hard when you're a young kid and this parent doesn't like you because you're starting over their son. So that kind of stuff started as my junior and senior year, and it really never stopped after that. So that's kind of how I had to harden myself. If you don't like being criticized every day, because in baseball, every day we're the only teams or only profession, they put an error up there. Every time you make an error, right? They flash it on the board, E5, E6, whatever, right? So if you don't like being criticized, don't play baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, and also, Willie, you know, this time of year, obviously, just a great thing for Kansas City and the Hall of Fame, and finally Buck O'Neil being introduced to the major league. I mean, that's what an incredible story. But, you know, during our research, we were watching some old clips, and you kind of envisioned him as almost a father figure, if I'm not mistaken. So expand a little bit on your relationship with Buck.
Well, Buck's always been kind to me. For some reason, Buck kind of took me under his wing. He saw something in me that maybe I didn't see, and, you know, I see it now, what he probably saw in me. But he would come over the house. He knew all my kids' names, and we would go play golf together. And, you know, he was just, I feel like now he was trying to get me to go the way that I'm going now. And
when did that relationship start?
It kind of started after all the commotion in '84.
That early?
Yeah, he kind of just would come over. I remember one time at the house, we had a pool party, and my friend Lupe had a band, and he played at the party, and Buck came over, and everybody was kind of sitting there, and Buck like, "Come on, young fellas, let's get up and dance." And he got everybody up. And, cool. You know, Buck was just that kind of person. I am so happy for him that he's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I know that he said it didn't bother him, but I kind of think it bothered him a little bit because, you know, everybody wants to celebrate it when they're alive. Right. And, you know, he deserved it then and he deserved it now. But, you know, I got this one story with Buck. We were at Longview Golf Course, and there's
Fred Urbanus.
Right. And now Fred Urbanus, right? Yeah. But there's that par 5 dogleg left, and water on the left, and then I think it's either 6 or 7, and Buck, you know, hits a nice drive down the right side, you know. So I'm going to try to turn the 3-wood around the corner, because if I hit the drive, it's going to be too far. I'm going to be in that crap, right? And I popped it up, and I'm like standing there looking at it up in the air, and Buck goes, "Run it out. He might drop it." And that's one of my best memories of Buck. And after that, we just laughed. So Buck's always been a friend. And right now, Bob Kendricks is that kind of friend that Buck has been to me. You know, Bob's a good guy, and Bob's really made the museum what it is today, him and Buck. And I'm just really proud to have been Buck's friend, and I'm proud to be Bob's friend. And hopefully, you know, things can work out to where I'm back in Kansas City a little bit more often doing stuff for the Negro League Museum.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, man. Well, what a blessing for Buck to, you know, be in your life, you know, in the early 80s, because I know there were some things going on, you know, during that time. So
a lot of things. It's all out there, man. It's all out there. It's a lot of things.
We appreciate you bringing it up. You said the commotion of '84. So, you know, the listeners of the show, we had Willie Aikens on last week, and he spoke. He's very open about his personal experience, but kind of what was that like going through, like you said, the quote unquote commotion of '84, and how did that kind of maybe propel you for the rest of your life, whether as a you know, athlete always in the spotlight? Because I bet that just had to have always been hanging on you like this monkey, like, Willie, you're in the spotlight, even though you don't necessarily want to be. Because I think even on DC had some notes that you didn't really want to be famous.
No.
And so maybe to deal with some of those things, that's what brought you to that commotion, like you said. So maybe just speak a little bit about that.
Well, I think that the guys now coming up through the minor leagues, first of all, they get people that can teach them how to deal with what's going on in the major leagues, which is something that we didn't have in the 70s, mid-70s.
Right.
That was one of the reasons that I think I kind of went the way I went. The other reason was I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted to play ball and go home. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't know how. Yeah, I didn't want to do none of that. I just wanted to play ball, win, and go home. And so that's what I'm saying. In the minor leagues, these guys are used to dealing with and how to deal with. And so that became a problem for me because I didn't think I was any more important than anybody else. I just played ball. To me, a teacher was more important. A policeman was more important. A fireman was more important. And most of all, your parents were more important than me. But that's not how it is. And I kind of understand that now. And, but it was really kind of a hard thing for me to deal with when people are coming up to me and asking for autographs, and I'm like, really? Like, you really want mine? And so I didn't know how to deal with it. And then I became kind of angry at it because I wanted to go home. I just wanted to go home. I wanted to see what was going on there, and I wanted to be with my kids, and it was taking time away from my kids. So I didn't know how to manipulate the time and all that kind of stuff. But I do now, and the kids are grown, so I don't even worry about it. But I got into it because it was everything it was the 80s. And I'm basically just saying, it happened, we did it. And, I felt like we weren't the only ones, but we were in the spotlight. And so when that happens, you really don't know how to handle it because it was something that, you were doing for fun. And so when I got caught, it was more so that winter, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And so I didn't. So that whole winter, I was cool. Summer, I was cool. And then the late Al Cowens. You guys remember Al Cowens, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The late Al Cowens, which I took his position when he got hit in the jaw. So I felt like I owed him a favor. And this is all true. I'm not making this up. So
you felt like you owed who a favor?
Al Cowens.
Okay.
I felt like I owed him a favor because he had asked me, did I know anybody who was selling the drug?
Okay.
So I called the guy, and the guy says, no, I don't have anything. And he said, who is this, Willie Wilson or Willie Aikens? And that's how I got caught, right? And I was like, Willie Wilson.
The phones were being tapped?
The phones were being tapped. So, I told him no, and then that was it. And then month or so later, went to Yankee Stadium. I dove for a ball, hurt my shoulder, and it might have been the Pine Tar game. I don't know. I can't remember, right? But I know my shoulder was hurt. So we came home. I was going to the doctor, and I kind of went through a yellow light, and then the car behind me went through a red light. And I went, wow, that's weird. And I stopped at the next light, and the car pulled up to me, and I looked over, and it said KBI, Kansas Bureau of Investigation. So I pulled over, and they just started talking to me. We think you doing this. And I said, well, if you guys know so much, why are you asking me stuff? I don't know who sells this. I don't know where it's coming from. And if you think I'm selling it, you're kind of crazy because I'm not going to do that, right? And so they didn't. They didn't press charges or anything right away. And then I went to the doctor, came to the ballpark, and it was all over the news. Somebody had leaked it, right? And I'm riding in the car and it says, I'm listening to the news, and it says, one of the royal superstars is being arrested. I'm like, who is that? That's what I'm saying to myself, right? Who the hell is that? So anyway, I get to the stadium. Share host calls me up. I got to talk to him. Now, everybody in the locker room's got their head down. I mean, shit, man, it's me. So finally, I go talk to the people and talk to a lawyer, and the lawyer recommended to the judge probation. I had like about, 15,000 signatures. I was clean. I mean, I wasn't doing anything. I was just clean. And so, but I'm not saying I didn't. I mean, I did before, but at that particular time, I was clean.
Sure.
So we messed around and then got to the judge, and we got to court, and they had already sentenced Vida, but he was being delayed. So it was between me, Willie Aikens, and Jerry Martin. People don't really remember Jerry Martin.
Right.
So I was the first one to go to trial. And so when the judge says to me, he goes, I know that the DA recommended probation. I know that you have all these signatures. He goes, but I got people downstairs that have committed murder who don't get this much of attention. And then he goes, so I'm going to give you a year in jail. And that's all I heard.
Oh, wow.
Was a year in jail. And I popped up and I went, for what? I didn't do anything. Wow. Like all I did was call. And the guy goes, but I'm going to suspend, I think he said 8 months or 9 months or something like that. And I had to do 3 months, right? And I was like, that's all I heard. I was like, what the hell? I didn't do anything. I wasn't taking anything. I didn't do anything. Right. You see, I'm clean. I had to go get all kind of stuff. And turned out the judge was a frustrated athlete. And he didn't. Yep. And so he was going to make me an example of not doing it, I guess. So I was the first one, and then I had to, it was really heartening because I could take it. What hurt me was my kids, because they got to go to school. They got to hear all this stuff. They got to do this. They got to do that. So it hurt my kids more than I think it hurt me. But if I was at that time a better person, I would have thought more about my kids and what it was doing to them. So there's things that you do that you wish you could change. You can't, but you can make them. You can make them better though, and that's what I'm trying to do.
The cool thing is, Willie, is we all go through life and make mistakes, man, and the best thing is you quickly learn from that, and you clearly had a good relationship with the Royals organization and the Kaufmans, because those other three guys weren't around, right? They kept Willie around, right? So
they weren't around, but I tell you what, Mr. K called me in his office.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was me, my wife at the time, and 2 of my kids. And I mean, he ran me up and down. And then after he did that, he goes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a 4-year contract. And I went, what?
Wow.
So, but he said, if you ever, and you didn't want to disappoint Mr. K. And then the next year we went to the World Series and won. Wow. So, like I said, Mr. K was like Buck. They saw something in me that I really didn't see. And, it was, I've been very fortunate in a lot of areas. My health has been good. Let me knock on some wood. It's just something that, happened. And so it happens, and you just try to help other people to make it not happen to them.
Absolutely. Well, we all have problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the power of you telling your story about your struggles, whether it was through your book right? So
Right.
I think maybe we can talk a little bit about that, but being able to share your experiences on how you overcame those things, how it actually helped you later in life, how it helped you become a better teammate, a better father, a better partner, a better leader, you know, by example. So maybe speak a little bit about for a couple of minutes of how and why you decided to do the book and how it's helped kind of tell that story and help others.
Well, I decided to do the book to get it off my chest. I wanted to do the book to let people know what really happened, and that, you know, this game or life can lead you through a lot of paths. But I've always been spiritual. I'm not religious. You know, there's a difference. I believe in certain things, and I feel there's a spirit. And if you're on the bad side of that spirit, you get bad. If you're on the good side of that spirit, you're going to get good. And I just feel like it was something for me to do. It was something for me to just let the truth out. And I got a call from one of my buddies back in high school, and he told me, he goes, "Oh man, I didn't know the truth, and now I do." And it was really fascinating that he found out. So I think a lot of people were kind of misguided of how it happened, and I think a lot of people still are. But it made me realize that this is what I have to do, and then this is how I'm going to help some people. And I started doing stuff with the dental clinics, and we were helping kids get free dental care, and kids that couldn't afford it. And we started doing baseball camps, and we were just trying to do knowledge of my knowledge to give to the kids. And then, you know, it just made me so much better, I think, to appreciate life a little bit more. And it made me appreciate the people a little bit more, because the parents are, the kids don't know me, but the parents do. So that kind of made it kind of cool. But
you're doing those things probably made you happier. Like just
it was happier. It was more time consuming, but you don't think about that when you're helping. I realized that, you know, a lot of people don't know about dental, but you know, you can have a toothache and die because it can get infected and go to your brain. And a lot of people don't know that. And that's how we started the dental thing, was because this young man died from that. And the story that I really kind of tell people is this one lady, sad story. Her child, or this is a grandmother, her grandchild, they don't know where the mother was. So the grandchild and her, he had these braces on and he couldn't get them off. And he'd had them on for years. And he finally, doctors took his braces off, and the grandmother was just in tears. And I don't want to say it was me. I was just the face. It was the doctors and the nurses and all that helped. But she came to me and she hugged me and crying, and she said, "I'm so happy that someone wanted to help, because they couldn't afford to get it off. And if the other dentists were to get it off, then they could be sued for this. And if it, you know, it was just a bunch of stuff." Right. But the worst part of that was, she said, "We live in a porta potty." Think about that.
Outdoor restroom?
Porta potty.
Wow. Unbelievable.
And if that doesn't hit you in the heart, then there's nothing that will. And for me to just help that person, and with the organization, it made you feel that you were doing something worthwhile. And I still feel it right now in my voice. I'm not trying. But it was so heart-wrenching that people live like that. Yeah. And we just don't give a crap. And that's what makes you want to go do things of what you're doing. And so for me, it really put a different perspective on life.
Well, the thing is, Willie, you know, you've been put on a track with being blessed as an athlete and just a great person at heart, and the things that you've learned good and some difficult times over life, man, that has just positioned you to be a light to others, right? To give back and give them hope, right? So you being active and doing that things just changes people's lives.
Well, it changes my life, and if it can help other people, and sometimes you don't realize helping other people helps you. Sure. And so I try to do that, and believe me, I'm not rich. I mean, I went through bankruptcy and all that kind of stuff. And, I'm making it, but I'm not rich. Put it that way. I hope people don't think that all that money, it was still in my bank account. But I just feel that whatever I can do to help, it really helps me and it helps the other person. Certainly. But, it's just makes you feel good, man. So
it does. Well, before we move on, Sean Casey was on the show yesterday, and he said something to the effect of, if you really want to do something that makes you feel better than anything else in the world, go out and do something for somebody else.
Yep.
Because he actually said there's nothing more selfish than doing acts for others, because there's nothing more gratifying, right? And it's an interesting perspective on it. Yep. But to your point, by helping others, that's what truly, lifts us up as individuals. So, maybe moving on, I think it would be kind of cool. Would you mind if we asked you a couple stories that we prompt? Would you mind be able to share some?
Go ahead, man. That's my my specialty.
We've heard a bunch of your stories before. We want to share them with some others. So, how about let's start here. So you've got a pretty illustrious career. You played for a lot longer than most.
Right.
You accomplished a lot more than most. I'm just gonna read a list of names: George Brett, Dennis Leonard, Hal McRae, Amos Otis, Brett Saberhagen, Frank White, Quisenberry, Freddie Patek, Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco, Ricky Henderson, Dave Henderson, Eckersley, Bob Welch, Dave Henderson, Willie Randolph, Willie McGee, Jamie Quirk, Sammy Sosa, Ryan Sandberg, Mark Grace, Sean Dunston. Dude, you've played with some rock stars.
Straight up ballers.
Like, holy
man,
cow.
It was, when I was with the Royals, we had some really great players. And then I went with the A's. And I tell people, I played with the Royals. I started was a utility toward the end of my career there. But when I went with the A's, I never played on a team with that many superstars.
Right.
It was really kind of cool. And the first year, the guy on the bench was me, Harold Baines. He's a Hall of Famer. Oh, we're on the bench, right? You got Randy Reddy, right? You got Blankenship. And then you got the governor, Jerry Brown, because at the time the governor of California was Jerry Brown. Yeah. And we just had a great time. Players. Yeah, we were the bench guys. And then I got kind of pissed off because Dave Henderson got hurt my second year, and I had to play the whole year. That's right. But I got in the playoffs that year, and actually we lost to the Toronto Blue Jays, and they went on to win 92 and 93. Okay. But it was kind of cool to be, and then you forget Ron Darling was on that squad too.
Yeah.
And we had Goose Gossage.
Jeez.
He came in 93.
The very end, yeah.
And it was really kind of cool to just play with those guys. And then I went with the Cubbies, and then the Cubbies were different back then in 93, 94. We had two different managers. One year was Lefevre, Ryan's dad. Mm-hmm. And then the second year was Troublehorn.
And wasn't Troublehorn like what I've heard you say?
He was your favorite manager, right?
Oh yeah, Troublehorn he'd never managed before. But Lefevre was cool. He was a veteran, and but Troublehorn was different, and that was my last manager because I got released. And but it was cool though. My last question to them was, "Do I get paid?" And if I get paid, then I'm signing right here.
Cool. I'm cool.
Yeah, because we went on strike that year.
Oh.
That's right,
94.
94.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So I was happy not to go on strike, and I just drove my stuff back home after I cleared waivers, and I kind of went through the Midwest, and I kind of remember my career starting in Waterloo, Iowa, and just, going through back to Kansas City. So it was kind of a memorable drive.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of cool, man. Those guys are cool. I had a great time, man. It was kind of cool to be around those kind of guys.
I bet.
Do you have any like a quick story that you could tell about those A's teams that were just
God.
started?
Let me see. The first time I was ever in spring training there, I'd wore royal blue all my life. So now I got on white shoes, yellow sanitaries, green socks, pull-ups. We got gray, we got green, we got yellow, and we got all these different colors. And so I'm locker next to Mike Gallego. Remember Gallego? And so he's our second baseman at the time, right? And Walt Weiss was shortstop. So we had a really good team. So Ricky comes in. Him and Jose were bidding for who could come in right before deadline, like last. It was unbelievable. So Ricky comes in and Jose comes in, and Ricky comes in the locker room, and Ricky starts. That was the first time I heard Ricky start talking about himself
in third person.
Yeah, third person.
And so I'm sitting there, and me and Gallego and reporters are all there because Ricky's the last one to report in, and they're like, and they start asking questions, and he starts going, Ricky says blah 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 blah. But Ricky says, and I look at Gallego and I go, isn't he Ricky? Who's he talking about? And Gallego just puts his towel on and is going to the shower. That's called Rickyism. So that was Ricky being Ricky, man. And so the last story that Ricky is, the year before, Willie Randolph was on the team. Yep. And he called Willie Randolph Will Dog. And so my nickname has always been Bean. I think Saberhagen gave that to me years ago. Chili bean, string bean. It was just Bean, right? So everybody calls me Bean. And so Rick starts calling me Will Dog. And I go, Rick, my nickname's Bean. He goes, well, you're Will Dog to me because Willie Randolph was Will Dog and your name is Willie, so you're going to be Will Dog. Every time he sees me, he get Will Dog. So that's my name with Ricky, and everybody else is Bean.
Well, so Jamie Quirk was on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Q was on our team.
Yeah, he was on that team, and he told a Ricky story, and he said that his locker was directly next to Ricky. And for the entire season, Jamie said, I don't think Ricky knew who I was the entire season.
Didn't even talk to him.
Didn't know his
Ricky
name.
had no idea. Him and Jose thought they were the bomb, which they were.
Like the sun,
right?
The
him and Jose.
Yeah.
And so one day, Tony comes in, and it's Saturday. Every Saturday, Jose had a migraine headache. Every Saturday, man. No matter where we were, he had a migraine. So Tony goes, this next 2 weeks, him and Ricky decided they didn't want to play. And I don't know for what reason, whatever. So Tony had me in center, Randy Reddy in left, and at the time, Eric Fox came up playing right field. And he was going to let us play. This is 92. Right. So I got to play because Hindu's hurt. So we end up being 10 games up. Now they want to come back. Right? So Tony says, all right. So when you come back, if you come back, after the All-Star game, you have 1 day of a migraine and I'm going to get rid of you.
Oh, wow.
First Saturday after the All-Star break. Boom, Jose has a migraine. And we're out there, back in those days, you come in through the center field in Oakland, right? And we're out there catching fly balls, and we just see him walking through, and we're going, So now the August is, the trade date, right? They're going to trade people. 8:59, West Coast time, which is almost 12 East Coast, the phone rings in the dugout. Yeah. So it's like Tony goes, click. Jose's on deck. He goes, Jose, come here. And he goes, Blankenship. And Blankenship thought he was released. He goes, oh, I'm released. He goes, no, go hit for Jose. So Jose comes back and he sits down and Tony tells him, dude, we just traded you. He takes his shirt, buttons go flying off, grabs his bat, right? So me and Hindu are sitting next to each other. Dave Henderson. We kind of run upstairs and Jose is locking the doors because he doesn't want the reporters to come in, right? Wow. So Hindu goes up to him. I don't go up to him. Hindu knows him, right? Hindu's like, hey, man, what happened? He goes, I got traded to blank and blank Texas Rangers. Hindu goes, I don't care about you. Who did we get? He goes, Ruben blank and blank Sierra. And Hindu goes, yeah, right? And then Hindu goes, okay, see you. Yeah. And that was it. Jose, Ruben came in, and then Ruben was kind of another Jose. So it was different, man. But yeah, you get all kind of stories, man, with these guys, man. It was kind of crazy. Hey, but we had a good time, though. I had a good time.
Hey, one of the stories I would love for you to share with those who are listening to this, and it actually involves the A's. So go back a few more years. Let's talk about the 1982 batting average race between you and Robin Yount, and tell everyone how that went down with Billy Martin, who was the manager of the A's back then.
Well, Billy, I'd got a chance to deal with Billy by playing against him, but also I'd went over to Japan in 79, I think, and I think once in 80 our team went there, but Billy was the manager for the American League, and it was an American League, National League All-Star game in Japan. So I got to know him there, and I just found out he was really a really nice man. You know, I think we all put on a facade when we're playing and this and that, but Billy was really kind of cool person. So I'm leading in the batting championship. I think I played 160 games that year, maybe one or two games less, but I played a lot.
Right.
And it was the last day of the season. I was up, I think, 5 points or 4 points on Robin Yount. And I walked into the locker room, and Sherhouse and the manager in there, and they go, Willie, come in the office. We don't want you to play today. And then for a quick second, I was like, why? You don't think I can get a hit? I mean, all I got to do is get one hit, right? I'm going to be up 4 or 5 times. At the time, I was hot. And so they go, no, we just don't think you can. We don't want you to play. He's got to go 5 for 5 to beat you, right? He's 1 for 1. He's 2 for 2. He's 3 for 3. Yeah. He's 4 for 4 right now, right? And they're an hour ahead of us because they're playing the Baltimore Orioles. So the phone rings on our side. I'm down there loosening up, trying to get one at bat, one hit, right? Like its chances are going to be slim. So Billy calls our dugout. He's on the other dugout. And he calls over and he goes, hey, you guys want me to delay the game until you guys find out what Robin Yount did in Baltimore? And I'm saying to myself, how the hell does he know what's going on? I mean, he knew what was going on, right? So we're like, yeah, let go delay it. So he goes out, and he's not going to take the pitch out. He just goes out there to talk to him. And then we get a call from upstairs. Robin Yount lined out the center field. The guy made a diving catch, right? So we whistle at Billy and go, it's good. It's good. And then as he's walking off, I tip my hat to him, and he tips his hat back to me. And so it was like, hadn't been for Billy, I probably would have got up, grounded out and lost the bat championship.
You won by like 100th of a point.
Percentage point.
1/100th of a percentage point.
And like you said, Willie, like what other manager who doesn't have one of his players in the batting race is over on the other side of the dugout paying attention to that?
Right. That's what I'm saying. He knew everything that was going on, and I just really appreciated him for that. Billy was really a good guy, man.
For sure.
Right.
Here's a prompt for you. So this guy's come up a couple of times in our podcast with players talking about him, but Mr. Nolan Ryan, the Ryan Express, right? So to set the scene, I think you had a couple of instances with him, a couple of different stories and memories. One being your first All-Star game. And then secondly, obviously, I don't want to give it away before you give it away, but the story of where let's just say you knew what was going to happen during that at-bat.
Yeah.
Well, I had faced him before that. I came up from AAA, and, I didn't drink. I wasn't a drinker. I'm still not much of a drinker right now, but they took me out and said, Rook, you want to hang with us, you got to learn how to drink. So they gave me
teammates, you mean, right?
Yeah, my teammates. They had me like 3-4 vodka and orange juices. That's the only Amos drank vodka and orange juices. So I drank them while I was drunk. So the next day we have a day game, and I didn't know Amos. I knew him and Nolan had played together with the Mets, but Amos hardly ever faced Nolan. It's a rarity that Amos faced Nolan. So now they're coming to me, hey, Rook, you ready to play? I'm like, yeah, who's pitching? Nolan Ryan. Okay. So, all right, I'm batting last, and Nolan, I'm going to bunt. That's part of my game. Yeah. So I fouled it back to bunt, and he started screaming at me like, you blankety blank blank from the mound. I mean, they could talk back. I didn't know you could talk to each other back then, but they could do that, right? And he's screaming at me, right? So I get back in the box, and I look at the catcher, and I go, was he talking to me? And I think it was Sonny. He was like, yeah. So anyway, no, he was with the California Angels, so it wasn't Sonny. I think it was Bob Boone. Anyway, so the next pitch is coming at me right at my head. I mean, it's coming, man. He's grunting. Ugh! So I flip, and I mean, my bat's going one way, my helmet's going the other way. I mean, I flip, man. That's the quickest I ever think I landed on my back. And when I had my eyes closed and I was kind of searching and feeling in my body, where did I get hit? And I noticed I didn't get hit. So I opened my eyes, and he was standing in the cuff of the grass, the turf and the batter's box. And he said, don't you ever butt on me again. And I'm laying on the ground, right? And I just looked up at him and went, okay. I'm never going to butt on you again. So now it's 1992. He's played in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and he's still playing in 1992. And I'm like, come on, man. So the score is in the seventh inning is 0-0. I'm leading off. I know, Nolan's pitching his Texas Rangers, and I tried to fake a bunt, but it was ball one. And he starts yelling the same crap he was yelling at me when I was a rookie, right? Now I'm in my 30s. I'm like, screw that, right? I don't let it bother me. So he gets 3-1, and I know he's got to come with a fastball. I cheat a little bit, get out front, hit it the right center. And as I'm rounding second, I'm yelling the same thing he was yelling at me, right? And so the fans start throwing stuff at me, right? They're just, how could you yell at a legend? And I'm like, are you guys watching the same game I'm watching? This guy's yelling at me and stuff, right? So anyway, we score 2 runs. It's a 7th inning, like I said. I got to get up again in the 9th. I know it.
Yeah.
So we got McGuire, Jose, all these big dudes, Steinbach, Dave Henderson, big dudes, right? And then I go, he's going to hit me, right? And everybody goes, yep. So I go, nobody come out. Just let them hit me. We're going to go to the playoffs. They're not. So I walk up to the umpire. You know, I used to tap the umpires and tell them hello. And I said to the umpire, you know he's going to hit me, right? And the umpire goes, yep. So I step in the box. I don't even dig in. I just turn my back like, okay, go ahead. Just freaking hit me, man. And he throws one right down the freaking middle. And I go, oh, God, I start digging in. He's not going to hit me like this, right? The next pitch, whop, hit me right in the leg because he knew I was going to run if I got hit anywhere else. And the ball didn't just go like hit and bounce. It hit, and it was like it went sucked in like that, right? And then it just dropped, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, don't let him know it hurts, right? Just run to first. I took one step, went down. So, I mean, that hurt, man. I can still feel it to this day, how that ball hurt, man. Like, it just, the seams were in my leg. But anyway, I get to first, and, you know, Rafael Palmeiro's there, and he's going, man, I hate it when he hits people. And I go, why? He goes, because he doesn't have to hit. One of us is going to get killed. And I go, that's a fact, because Tony likes to, he'll retaliate. I go, you're okay. But you see that center fielder out there? He's going to get beat up. But, you know, I met Nolan years ago when he was the GM for the Texas Rangers. And the Royals are down here in the Wigwam, and they share the same place with the Texas Rangers and the Royals, right? I hear these boots, boom, boom, coming around the corner, and I look up. I'm sitting at the bar, and it's Nolan, and I'm like, oh, jeez. He comes over. We sat there for about a half an hour to 40 minutes, and we had the greatest conversation. He was the nicest guy you ever wanted to meet, and I just have that memory of him that day opposed to the ones that he was hitting me. And then I said to him, good luck as a general manager. And this is his comment to me. He goes, I think I'm a little bit over my boots.
Oh, really?
And they go to 3 World Series. How about that?
That's right. Wow.
That's right. You see what I'm saying? He thinks he's over his boots, and they go to 3 World Series.
Wow. Well, he was just such an intense competitor in between the lines, because to finish out that story, didn't the umpire throw him out? Like, wasn't that one of the few times he was actually thrown out of the game?
Well, yeah, that was the only time.
Yeah.
Wow.
He got thrown out of the game. And when he hit me, the umpire goes, you get out of here. He goes, for what? I hit him all the time. I think it might have been the only game he was ever thrown out, man. But, yeah, I got all kind of different records, man.
Yeah, that's all. Well, one of the things that we want to honor you for, Willie, because you just had such an amazing career, but man, you're one of the very few people of all time in 1980 that you had 100 hits from each side of the plate. Jeez. You had 230 hits that year. And, bro, you had a 705 at bats. That's unheard of. What? Unheard
at the
of.
time, it was, I think, 7-something. I think it was Dave Cash had the record a long time ago. But I think that record's been broken now by a few people. But as far as the at-bats are concerned, the 230, that's been broken by a few people too, but I don't think it's as far as the switch hitter's concerned. And for me, I was proud of that because you have more right-handers than you have lefties in the big leagues at the time. So I had to get up less times right-handed to accomplish the 100 hits. And the last 3 hits I got right-handed were against right-handed people. And they were all sliders. So that made me feel pretty good that I could hit those babies if I needed to. But, it was different then. I was new. And, you know, they were challenging me a lot with fastballs and sliders. They were kind of treating me like I was in the National League and it was an American League. And then as I got older, they started dropping them curves and change ups and all of that kind of stuff. So split fingers and stuff. So it became a different kind of way they pitched to me. But in the beginning, they were just trying to challenge me, and I wasn't missing too many fastballs.
Right. So talking about kind of you kind of changed the landscape for a lot of players like you, but like today, sports science is more prevalent than ever, right? So
right.
The ability to, with sabermetrics or measure the human body and what people are capable of, like you just look at ball players, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, you look at ball players today, physically, it's a different type of body than what it was in the 70s and 80s. So with that being said, like guys are bigger, stronger, faster. Why do you think, and this is again, with your perspective as a stolen base leader, why, when the players are faster, why are we seeing fewer stolen bases in today's game? Because it's just not there.
Right. It's there. They just don't want to do it as much because I think they're stressing more so home runs, 2-run, 3-run home runs. And but as a fan, which I am now, I am kind of bored with the game because there's so many strikeouts. As a fan, we don't have the hit and run anymore. We don't have the steals, or you do have the first and thirds, but guys are hitting so many home runs. You got a close play at second because they're watching the ball. And I see it's the fundamentals that bug me. And because I had to learn how to play outfield, I just see so many different fundamentals that they don't do. I saw a guy the other day for the Philadelphia Phillies. Ball hit off the wall. He went with his glove to pick the ball up. He missed it with his glove and then had to go back and pick it up again with his glove and his hand. Now, I'm thinking just if you work on the fundamentals, and the ball's standing still. Like it wasn't rolling much. So a thing like that is you don't use your glove at all. You take your whole hand and go on top of the ball. So that way that you don't miss the ball by just 3 fingers, you just grab the whole ball, then you maneuver it as you're about to throw. I just see so many different little things there, like if the ball bounces to your left, if the ball bounces to your right, if it's high, if it's low, as soon as you get the ball, you just take it, throw it to your base because you've already thought of that before it happens. I see so many guys hesitate and double pump. It's just, to me, the fundamentals aren't there, and they don't care about stolen bases. They care about the analytics, and they care about whether they can get a 2 or 3 run home run, and you lose a game 2-1 with a man on third when all you have to do is make contact. You see what I'm saying? Right. So I wish they would put the stolen base back in. I wish they would run more. I wish they would have contact play at third. Contact play is just, you got a man on third, just hit a ground ball, take off. Make them make a perfect throw. But I think these young managers are with young players and they don't have any veteran guidance, and that's all because they're trying to relate to the young player. And I hate to be that old guy.
Right.
I don't want to be that guy on your line, get off my line, stuff like that.
Right.
But what I see from the Royals is pitching. Yeah. I mean, I don't care how good your offense is. If you score 8 and give up 9, it's your pitching.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You got to have the pitching.
You got to have pitching. And if your pitching's bad, then you better have good defense. And if both of them are bad, you're going to lose games. And that's what I see the Royals are doing. I love the Royals. Yeah. I mean, I root for them every damn day. But I hate sitting here, and I would love to just give my little bit. But since 1984, I don't get the little bit. And I made 1 year as an outfielder and didn't get the Golden Glove. So I think all of that that happened to me in '84 combines to why I'm doing other stuff instead of the stuff I want to do with the Royals.
Right. No,
So
that makes total sense. Well, the one thing that we want to hit on, because we want to be mindful of your time, Willie, is you're talking about leadership in the clubhouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So take a minute, because I know a lot of our players like yourself, young guys coming up in the 70s, but we had this gentleman, Hal McRae, who came over from the Big Red Machine, right? who was like that clubhouse leader. So tell us a little bit about how his leadership style was in the clubhouse.
It was different. If you couldn't take criticism, and in our game, you're going to get criticized all the time, but you hate to be criticized by your own teammate. Mm-hmm. But Hal didn't really care, because his main purpose was to win. And I can tell you right now, as good as George was and as good as he could play, he would tell you Hal was his leader. He was the one that
he did
tell you this and tell you that. Hal would here's the story. I thought I was hurt one day, and then he would get in the big basket with all the clothes in it, cover himself. He'd have on a sergeant's army jacket, and they would push the bucket all around the clubhouse, and if it stopped at your locker, you knew some stuff was going to happen, right? And he would pop out, and he'd shoot you with the rifle. You can't help us. Why are you here? What are you doing here? You can't help us. So he goes right to your heart, to your manhood, right? And now you're going to you go, well, I'm playing then, because he would tell everybody in the locker room, what are you doing? You can't help us, right? So now he's making you play. And he would do stuff to where, if you look at that playoff game in 77, when he took out Willie Randolph, all right, he told Freddie was on second. He was on first. And he yelled to Freddie, when I take him out at second, you go home. And as you see the play, he took Willie Randolph out, wrapped his arm around him, and pointed to Freddie to go home. Now, you're looking at this guy. He's in his 30s. You're in your 20s. If I can do it, you certainly can do it. Mm-hmm. So that's why everybody followed Hal. And if Hal was running and doing, everybody else did the same thing. And because he came from the Cincinnati Reds, who were pretty daggone good, and they knew how to win, we just accepted it. And he would get people so mad at him. And if you were a utility player, he would say, and you want to fight him, right? I want to fight you. He goes, I don't fight utility players. And the guy couldn't do anything. He still wanted to fight you. Like, yeah, I don't fight you. You ain't starting. I don't even fight you, man. Hal he was something, man. Oh, he went right there. I tell you.
So, Willie, before we wrap up here, I think it's kind of a cool story and fitting, because some of our listeners in our fantasy camp group especially helped out with this. But would you mind sharing the story for a couple of moments about your World Series ring and how that came to be? Because it's a really, really special story.
Well, there's a lot of help in that story.
Right.
I had a business venture, went bankrupt, and I had to sell my ring. I didn't have to sell it. They sold it. The government. The guy I was trying to get the ring back from, which I wanted to get his permission, he wanted season tickets to the Royals and an astronomical amount of money. And I just told him, you keep it. So I had to call the Royals and get permission through them to have my ring remade through the company that would making them back in those days.
Like Jostens or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So finally got permission from them, and I had wrote my book, and I think I was doing speeches and stuff like that surrounding the book. Helen, my better half, I'd went on to do something in Toronto, and the whole city knew about it except for me. I don't even know how a whole city kept it secret, man. So I go to the Negro Leagues, and I'm going to do a speech. And then finally I finished the speech, and I kept seeing people that were coming in that normally weren't coming in to do those kind of speeches at the Negro League. So I'm like, okay, something's going on, but I didn't exactly know what. And then they told me that it was basically to present me with my World Series ring, and there was a lot of people that put up money and cash and stuff for that to help me out, and especially a lot of local guys. And I still got the names of everybody over here, and my thanks for the memories. And there was a guy in there that a lot of people don't know I was pretty good friends with, and half of the money we had got, and the other half he had gave to us, and that was Eddie Vedder.
No kidding.
Right.
Well, he was discussed on yesterday's show with Sean Casey.
Yeah.
Eddie's
I've known Eddie for a while. He kind of gave the other half of the money.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
It was pretty cool.
Did that relationship start with the Cubs connection?
Yeah, with the Cubs connection it started. And he's a big Cubby fan. But I got to really know him doing a lot of fantasy camps, and we would sit down and talk, and he was just a really cool dude. So we became really good friends, and it started late 90s. So it was pretty cool. And so when I got the ring, it really touched me. I don't wear it much now because I don't want to lose it.
You don't want to lose it.
But I do wear it at special occasions. And I'm coming to Kansas City on the 8th next month to do the Buckle-Neal Golf Tournament, and also to do WHB, which is 100 years of existence. So I'm going to help them out, do the stuff. I guess it's a dinner and sports kind of special, and they're going to hand out ESPYs, so that's pretty cool. Wow. And then I'm going to do some clinics there in Kansas City for Raytown and the Negro League museum out in the back, the Urban League. So right on. It's going to be nice. I really love coming back there. I would love to come back there for more things, but it's tough, and I know that. Good. So
maybe we'll be able to hook up with you when you're in town next month.
Man. Yeah, man, that'd be good.
Hey, Willie, we always say great things can come from fantasy camps, whether it's Cubs camp or Royals fantasy camp, man. A lot of good vibes come from there.
For sure.
We talk about how we've made some of our best friends and brothers, and now we're going to weddings and funerals and all types of cool stuff, with these great guys. So that's a great story about you and Eddie Vedder, man.
Love it.
Yeah. Fantasy camp, I really enjoy that. And this year we got another one in November. How about that? Two in 1 year.
We're getting ready.
Yeah.
We're getting ready.
And I want to ask you guys one thing.
Yes, what you got?
How's Clarkie? How's he doing?
Yep.
Well, we love him very much, and we see him and talk. You just saw him the other night.
I saw him 2 nights ago. I took my son to the Royals game and saw Clarkie because he's the mayor of the crown seats, right? He loves that. But man, he looks good. He's in really good spirits, and as you know, he's just nothing but salt of the earth. One of the best guys, and he's really looking forward to being healthy and being ready to rock in November.
He'll listen to the show, and Clarkie, we love you, man. Obviously, Willie loves you too.
Yeah, man, I just wanted to find out, man. I just wanted to let him know that always thinking about him, man. So
strong dude with a strong woman and Jamie, that's for sure.
Yeah,
we'll definitely pass that along for you.
Willie, as we wrap up here, rapid fire, okay? One-word answers. Football or baseball?
Baseball.
Did you ever pretend to limp down first base so pitchers wouldn't think you were stealing?
Yes.
Should number 6 be retired by the Royals?
Definite.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's the way to end the show right there.
You said one word, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't say definitely yes. So.
No, hey, man, we love you. And I will say, for those listening to the show, Bleacher Report, obviously a huge sports site, has Willie friggin' Wilson listed as the number 3 Royal of all time.
All time.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
how about that?
How about it? So, yeah, I think
That's
number
amazing.
6 should be retired too. So,
Yeah.
Willie Wilson, thank you so much for being on the Always Be Cool podcast. We're your hosts, Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland. Be sure to find us online, Spotify, Google, Apple playlists, as well as Instagram and Facebook at Always Be Cool Podcast. Willie, if somebody wants to find you, buy your book, or listen to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, they can do Willie at williewilsonbaseball.org, and they can email me there, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Right.
Willie Wilson, thank you so much. Hang on the line. We're going to stop recording. We'll talk to you for another 30 seconds or so. And take care, guys. Thanks for listening to the show.
Cool. Thanks, Willie.
All right. Thank you, guys.